busiest street in the world this morning. What's up, guys? I just had a thought. It seems like the Japanese beetles were pretty bad this year. At least for me. Your mileage may vary, but the Japanese beetles were bad, and then while the beetles were attacking things during the day, then Junebugs came out at night and exhibited similar behavior or plant preferences, at least in my yard. And some of you might be wondering what you can plant that won't get attacked by Japanese beetles and what you can do about them once they show up. I have to tell you, my experience with the Japanese beetles this year was pretty rough. It didn't, I did the neem oil spray and orchard spray and set up traps and did all that stuff, and it didn't seem like they cared one way or the other what I did. They were just insistent on going after certain things. So I thought I would share with you my experience, and maybe it'll help you in your plant selection for your garden. Anyway, this spring I planted a number of things all about the same time. Now, this is a lead plant, so named because when the leaves are white, it looks like they're covered with white lead, and then when they're younger, they're bright green, and as they mature, they get more white. Anyway, these get to be about 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, and after they're established, if they're happy, they make these little purple and orange flowers. This is a spent flower here, but when they're in bloom, they're really pretty. They can take a while to get established, but I got lucky and they were happy enough to bloom this year. This is a New Jersey tea. This one got stepped on by a neighbor's dog that got out, or by the child that was chasing it, trying to catch it. But anyway, it had kind of a rough start. These are said to attract hummingbirds. I put them in, these didn't really bloom this year for me, but maybe next year, so I'll report later on that. Those also get to be about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. And as the name would suggest, you can use the leaves as a substitute for tea if you want. It's caffeine free, if that matters to you. Another lead plant and another New Jersey tea. These were planted before the beetles came out, and the beetles didn't care for these at all. So the New Jersey tea and the lead plant were untouched in my yard. The peach tree here was put in too late for me to say anything one way or the other, so it's been left alone. The redbud has been here all season long, and the Japanese beetles and the Junebugs barely noticed it. So there's that. My wife's little peony bush, relatively untouched. Japanese beetles and Junebugs don't care to eat those, and of course marigolds. Near as I can tell, nothing eats marigolds. The 9-bark was put in this year. This is just a standard common 9-bark, not a fancy cultivar or anything. I wanted something trouble-free and native. So I did the common 9-bark. It saw a little bit of activity, but not much. It was relatively unbothered by the feeding that was done on it. More marigolds, and then we come to the black chokeberry bush. The black chokeberries were almost completely defoliated by Japanese beetles during the day and Junebugs at night. Didn't matter what I sprayed on them. Didn't matter. They just kept eating. Neem oil, 100% ineffective. Orchard spray killed the ones that were on it, and then within a few minutes different ones were on it, and they just kept going. So I don't even know if these are going to make it back next year. That's the black chokeberry, or aronia berries, if you've heard of those. This is another native. This is a smooth sumac. This is a smooth sumac, and not poisonous, as you can see, although I don't recommend eating it. But this, untouched, right next to the black chokeberry, which got eaten almost to death. Sumac, untouched. Another black chokeberry, and you can see it's been eaten to death and hasn't really been able to recover. So I may cut these down to the ground and see if they recover next year, but I sprayed so much stuff all over it, I'm not even sure I want to leave the berries for the birds. Here's another common 9-bark. It got a little bit of a fungus issue early in the season, but bounced back from that and still almost untouched by any beetles or bugs of any kind. Now, my Dunstan Chestnut, this one's looking a little burnt and dried out, and I haven't entirely figured out why, but the Japanese beetles eat these pretty well, but not enough to outrun the growth. The tree seems to be recovering from it, you know, so it was tolerant of the beetle damage. The Japanese beetles eat it, but the Junebugs don't, at least not that I saw. You can ask my neighbors. I'm out in my yard all the time, walking around looking at stuff. Now these are American beauty berries, and they were just put in the ground, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, week or so ago. And, you know, the beetle activity is all done and over with now, so I can't say anything about those. Here we have a little persimmon tree. The persimmon tree has been unbothered by Japanese beetles or Junebugs. I don't spray anything on it. I water it, and I've given it a couple shots of fertilizer, but no insecticide of any kind. They don't care about that. All of these flowers, bugs don't touch them. Or whatever they do, the flowers can outrun it. Here's another Dunstan Chestnut. The beetles did do a fair amount of damage to this one. I'd say they ate about 1/3 of the leaves that were on it, but the tree seems to be hanging in there. These are Cranberry Viburnums, here and over there. Cranberry Viburnums, or American cranberry. These are another native species I planted because I want something relatively trouble-free. The cranberries that it makes down there are non-toxic to people and animals, but they are really sour. So I planted these because there are a lot of kids that walk by, and you know, it's like I don't want them to get sick from anything in my yard. So both these and the American beauty berries are non-toxic, and so if they eat them, it won't hurt them, but they're really sour, so if they eat one, they probably won't eat two. But they were put in after the beetles were done with their life cycle, so I can't say anything about them. This is a hazelnut shrub. It got eaten a little bit, but not too bad. Same with this one. They both got eaten a little bit by the Japanese beetles, but not too bad. There's something else eating it right now, as you can see by that leaf. You know, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't seem to be killing the bush, so I'm not going to sweat over it too much. This is another Dunstan Chestnut. There were a lot of beetles on it when they were at their peak, but I don't know that they were eating a whole lot. So it did suffer some damage, but not a terrible amount. So why this one got touched so little and that one over there got eaten, you know, probably a third of its leaves, I don't know. I used neem oil on both of them whenever I saw the beetles, and it didn't matter. This is a wildflower area that has kind of been taken over by grass. Of course, wildflowers being what they are, they don't care about any beetles. This area here, some wildflowers have come up that we planted, different kinds. I like a lot of biodiversity in my garden, but it's been unaffected. I've got catnip here. I saw an article that says that Japanese beetles love this stuff. Couldn't prove it by me. Right next to it I have lemon balm. These are both members of the mint family, and they will spread like crazy if you leave them alone. They thrive on neglect. So if you've got cats, grow catnip. It's incredibly easy. And the bees love it. Bees are just all over it. So consider that. It also, just FYI, if you've got cramping or you're having trouble sleeping, you can use catnip and lemon balm to make a really nice herbal tea that will help with your headache if you have one, and help with your sleeplessness if you're having that issue. So good catnip smells kind of skunky when you bruise a leaf, and it'll make a cat squint if they're not used to it. But my cats just absolutely love the stuff. Most of them do. There's a couple of them couldn't care less. But the tea that you make from it does not taste or smell like that. So keep that in mind. But yeah, if you wanna make a really nice herbal tea for bedtime, try catnip and lemon balm together, and that'll help settle things down. But anyway, you can see I've got a little bit of variety in here. Different things coming up, marigolds and other stuff I can't remember the name of right now, but the beetles didn't seem to bother this, in spite of the fact that there's a beetle trap, or there was, right there. But all of these flowers have been fine. This is Staghorn Sumac. Kind of looks like a palm tree. I can't really show you on camera, it just doesn't come out right. But anyway, this is Staghorn Sumac. Very similar to the smooth sumac, but it gets a little bit taller and wider. These can get 20 feet or more tall and wide. So it's going to create some nice dappled shade when it grows up. So these two, untouched. I have a Staghorn Sumac here and another one here. Japanese beetles and Junebugs didn't touch them. So there's that. This one's happy enough, it's even starting to form a colony down low. They shoot up suckers from their roots. So keep that in mind if you want to plant them. They will spread. So, you know, I'm keeping a mowed border around it, or a mowed area around it in areas I don't want it to spread. So as the suckers come up, I just mow them weekly. So there's that. This is a dry area mix from American Meadows. My wife planted this about 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago, and the annuals portion of it has come up, and so there's this carpet of orange and yellow and just a tiny bit of red and a little bit of pink, and you can see the bumblebees love it and wasps love it, a little bit of wasps, but you know, it's like there's a bumblebee in there, he couldn't care less about what I'm doing. So you know, it's like just because there's bees doesn't mean they're gonna sting you. These bees are really happy on all these flowers. So a nice array of yellow and orange. From a distance they look like really tall marigolds. Anyway, here's a close-up of the Dunstan Chestnut. It was just a stick with no branches when we bought it, and I thought that looked interesting, so that's why we got it. Right now it's looking sunburned or something, I don't really know. Maybe it's just done for the year. Hard to say. But again, 9 bark, mildly attractive to Japanese beetles and Junebugs. The black chokeberries, they got eaten almost to death. We will see if they come back next year. If they do, then I'll let them go and see what happens. I may put nets over them to protect them. If they don't, then I will plant something else. I'm going to see how the American beautyberries do. If they do well, if the Japanese beetles and Junebugs don't care for them very much, then I may plant more of those. So far I really like those. The leaves smell nice too, if you don't know. I didn't know, but they do smell really nice. And they repel mosquitoes, from what they say. So, 9 bark, good to have, and they get pretty big pretty fast. This was their first year in the ground, so they didn't really shoot up, but I expect come spring they will. And then from what I've read, this peach tree is going to get attacked pretty seriously by the Japanese beetles. We will see. We planted it a little late in the season for the beetles to notice it, so it's been okay so far. So we'll see what happens. Interestingly, come over here and I have 2 little baby sassafras trees. That's sassafras, and this is a slightly bigger one. These were dug up out of the ground locally and transplanted to the yard last fall. So they haven't quite been in the ground a year. I'm using the taller grass and clover and stuff around them as sun protection and as kind of a living mulch to keep the soil cool while their roots are young. So anyway, there you go. That's what's going on in here. Sorry so long. Thanks for watching if you did. And I hope you get something useful from it. Talk to you again.